people got, as you mentioned, strategic victory, but because of the tactical failures, the Georgian Dream is capitalizing on it.
Taking the maximum of the benefit from what happened on 4th October and using it in the benefit of the organizing and coordinating and strategizing about the resistance further in the process.
The Ivanishvili, in our case, he captured the state, captured the institutions. Now we are in the process of him capturing the islands of freedom or society.
If we do not make a breakthrough by the end of the year, we will appear in a very, very difficult condition where actually the trigger and the energy source of the breakthrough will not exist anymore.
The moral isolation, practical isolation at national level and international isolation. These should be the three factors that, when synchronized, should produce results.
Nobody wants to be a slave. Nobody wants to live in totally powerless condition and unprotected, because this is what this government and this regime is suggesting and pushing for.
Hello and welcome to Talk Georgia, which is my English podcast covering Georgian and regional politics. Talk Georgia is brought to you by Droeba Media Group, trusted source of high-quality news and analysis, and also GSAC, a think tank providing comprehensive political analysis of Georgia and wider Black Sea region, also academic and practical training for postgraduate students and mid-career professionals. To dive into the key questions of Georgia's politics, today we are joined by Mr. Davit Gunashvili, who is a human capital management professional with extensive experience in both military and civilian sectors. So his career spans over 2 decades of progressive leadership in strategic HR management and civil service reform. He is US and Estonian educated, holding a master's degree in national security policy and civil military relations from Naval Postgraduate School in California. He also completed high command studies at the Baltic Defense College in Estonia. He worked at the Ministry of Defense of Georgia, where he served in various leadership positions, including head of human resource management. David also served as a strategic human resource advisor for the EU advisory mission in Ukraine, also as HR expert for NATO's military career transition program in Ukraine. So he's co-author of a number of guidebooks on civil service ethics and leadership and management. But due to the recent political situation in Georgia, he moved into the civil sector, civil resistance sector, I would say, and he's one of the founders of PARI movement. PARI means shield in English. And he, together with some other former defense and military and security professionals, they are shielding Georgia's democracy and Euro-Atlantic future. David, you're very welcome to the show. Please feel free to add anything to my introduction that you think that our audience should know about you before we get down to business, which is talking Georgia.
First of all, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm pleased to be here and wish this format and this podcast utmost success in this very important endeavor that you're doing.
Thank you. And let's get started with your personal story. Again, how did you end up on Rustaveli Avenue? From Defense Ministry of Georgia, from your advisory positions in Ukraine. Was it that you were forced out from the Ministry of Defense, or it was your own decision just to leave? Yeah, let's start from that before we get down into more serious, the political issues.
Well, the thing is that when I came back from the United States from my master's degree studies, it was in 2021, I was back then contracted. There's a specific form of employment in the civil service, which is administrative contract, which means that you are an advisor or an assistant to the deputy minister. And I was advisor to the deputy minister because when I left, I was head of HR. then I was actually forced to sign the resignation when I was in the United States, actually, during my studies. And I was offered a contract, administrative contract, as a advisor to the Deputy Minister of Defense. When I came back, actually, I met this Deputy Minister only a few times because I was already positioning myself as a professional who is criticizing government policies, and the tendency that it was pretty apparent already for me by the time that this governance in this country and this government was not going to the direction that we were promised to. So at some point when things got more tense, they decided to cut the contract, and then I was actually recommended to sign the request to cut the contract. Otherwise there would be some. They always threaten you with something. I had this kind of experience with the previous regime as well. In 2010, when I was kicked out from the Ministry of Defense, I was deputy head of HR department back then, and it was the same situation actually.
So you were repressed during both governments, as I understand.
Yes, I had the pleasure. Back then it was the same thing. I was criticizing the approach towards the reforms and the management and governance, and it was painful for that leadership as for this leadership. So I faced the same situations, but this is not important in a way. This is what happens if you remain a professional and you remain loyal to your principles and to your beliefs and to your dedication, which based on which I have served 22 years in the public service. Then you need to know that at some point you will face a resistance from the system, which is not going where it's supposed to be going. I was ready for that, and then I decided to multiply my efforts freely and started to focus on the matter of strengthening the protest and strengthening the civil society's effort to generate strong and effective protest. And then we had falsified elections very soon. And since the falsified elections, me, my family, and many thousands and thousands of our Georgian citizens, we had just no choice to come out to the streets and start a resistance, which continues to this day.
Okay, so let's start from that. I mean, our audience needs to know that David is the essential part of Rustaveli Avenue protest, and he's been there since the Russian law was introduced, even earlier, I believe. He was arrested a few times, spent a few days in the detention centers, but it didn't stop him. The other way around, as I see, he's more active now. My first question to you to start with, you said that, well, your dedication is there to strengthen the protest and, to help the protest to achieve the results. Let's start with the 4th of October, the big rally. There not tens, some estimate tens of thousands of people on Rustaveli Avenue. I thought it was more than 100,000. What happened on the 4th of October? So Okay, on one hand, we have this, again, a huge number of people protesting on the street that showed that the protest hasn't gone anywhere, the anger hasn't gone anywhere. On the other hand, a legitimate government wants to portray it as a violent coup d'etat. To be honest, I didn't see any violence, or I didn't see any attempt to overthrow the government by force. But anyway, so this is how the government wants to portray that and use it as a pretext for cracking down on dissent and, civil society activists. Well, these people, organizers of the rally, ended up in prison, and here's my solidarity and support to all of them. Again, what happened on the 4th of October? What, in your opinion, didn't go according to plan? Or what was the plan in the first place? I know that your organization, PARI, which that was the new update to me that you are no longer part of, was not organizing it, it was not part of it. Well, maybe in an individual capacity, you and some of your colleagues were there, on the rally. But again, you as a defense specialist, as a PR and HR specialist, so what was the plan, in your opinion? What didn't go according to plan? And where is it leading us?
Well, in general, the process was...
and one more thing, sorry. Sure. And the organizers are talking about betrayal. Okay, and namely Pata Burchuladze and Murtazo Delava basically are talking about the betrayal. Mm-hmm. What this betrayal could have been, in your opinion?
In general terms, the process was approached by the organizers in... the approach was wrong. Mm-hmm. It was not the correct approach. When you are planning and initiating, actually they capitalized on the 4th of October, which was like another municipality elections, which was another elections proposed by the regime in order to gain the legitimacy. And there was a great campaign against these elections to boycott the elections. So this context was already in the mind of the society, and they capitalized on this day and introduced their initiative to hold a mass rally, which would have two, let's say so, consequences. First would be like a manifestation of the direct democracy, like tens of thousands of people, 100,000 and so on, that would raise their hands and, vote in a way against the regime. That they will not tolerate this regime, assess the regime, that this is the regime, Russian-type regime, illegitimate governance, and so on. And this first part went pretty well. It was a good idea, because when many people are coming out on the streets to protest against the false elections, against the non-democratic rule, anti-European policies and everything, it's a nice idea to have these people raising hands, asking questions and raising hands, and have the direct democratic manifestation. Another consequence that they were calculating for was that they will end the regime. And the factors that they based their expectation are unclear. I mean, from the external observation point of view, you would think that, that they are calculating on the amount of the people and some process that they will introduce so that these people will follow. But it was announced by them that it is peaceful protest. There will be no violence, nothing like that. And actually, this is where it was going until they suddenly announced that we must move. The part of the protest should move in front of the residence where the current so-called president is working. But there was no violent, let's say so.
Storming or yeah.
No. I mean, nobody called them to enter the building or storm the building or something like that.
Absolutely. Maximum that we saw is that they went in the garden after this. The railing fell down.
Yes, I mean they were there, and
a few people leaned on the railing, and somehow kind of that fell down.
Yes, so that's where the surprise happened. Some kind of surprise. Our so-called prime minister also called it a surprise.
Yeah.
And journalists later on surveyed and investigated, and it is pretty apparent that the scene was prepared there to create a picture that there was actually a storming of the building and so on. Some people, as in an inertia, went into the yard. I mean, there were these things fall down, and I call this a provocation, okay? And we were warning the organizers about that before. I personally had several attempts to speak with them directly. My colleagues also spoke with them, and also from the TV appearances, they directly warned them that there is a scenario that the regime wants to happen, and this scenario means that they will do everything to demonstrate that we are storming buildings, that we are violent, that we are bringing chaos and so on. To demonstrate that this is non-constructive force and that this is an anti-state extremist force that is on the streets. So we were warning organizers and not to do anything that would help the regime to create this kind of picture. But that's exactly what happened. And when at that place, when they came back, when leaders came back from after this resistance started, because this special units, police units, came out of the building, it appeared that they are in the building, but not protecting the building. They let protesters actually to go into the yard, to go into the perimeter of the building, and then they came out. So they didn't work to prevent, because I have been on dozens of activities, protest activities, and even very peaceful activities. They had like 4 or 5 lines of police standing and protecting, preventing, and so on. In this case, the presidential palace, right?
They were lured in the garden.
They were hidden there, and when these fences fell down in a very strange way, I mean, no fence can fall down like that. It's impossible. Then they came out. So this was purely a provocation. When organizers call it a betrayal, I don't know. I mean, betrayal or not, they were fed with some false information, some false promises that something would happen there. I don't know. Maybe they were promised that the police that were present at this building, they would lay down their shields or let them in. I don't know what they were promised, but this is very. Russians are very good in this kind of operation, false flag operations. They fed you with information, with some truthful information, reliable information over some extended time period that you see that hey, this is true. We remember that the opposition leader that was arrested beforehand of the 4th October, one of the initiators, from the political field. Levan Ivanishvili, I mean, he was saying some stuff, and this stuff were happening later on. So someone was feeding them this information from the regime, from police, from political spectrum, and so on. And it is when they give you some reliable information, and then there is something that you very much want. They also give you some advices, and then you are very easy to be maneuvered in a provocation, right? So this is where the organizers appeared, and when I approached them, I mean, they came back to the main scene and also in front of the parliament building, and I approached them. to ask, what are you doing? I mean, what is your plan? What are you doing? Because we are people there who are in the resistance, including me and many other people. We were interested not to keep the momentum. Somehow, okay, it happened whatever happened, but we wanted to keep the people there and have this manifestation continue, because it was very important. And I was trying to convince them and have a discussion with these leaders to do something rational and to act in a logical way, so we keep the momentum. But they were very confused and very distressed emotionally, and I saw that they were very surprised with what happened. And it was very pity to see, because actually they were powerless. And also for us, I understood that, there is no possibility to manage this crowd now and to manage the process, because they were not prepared for the management. That's why I'm saying that the overall approach was wrong, was a mistake. It was an exclusive process. It was not inclusive to other actors, and there was no wider discussion of what should be the tactical strategy be to this day, how should we act. They were not ready also for the communication with the crowd.
The crowd was pretty confused. For
they
example,
were very confused. No
I
information.
was on Rustaveli Avenue, basically, and there was lots of people, my family members there. I mean, we didn't know where to go, what to do, etc., etc.
Technically, I mean, from the content point of view, they were not ready to communicate with this amount of people, and also technically they were not ready to communicate. There should be there were speakers and so on, but it was not enough, and big chunks of territory and people standing there were just unaware what's going on. And I personally had to move back and forth through the Rustaveli Avenue to inform with the megaphone people that this is going on, so on, don't go home, and so on, something like that. Yeah, but it was not enough. I mean, it was we put our maximum effort to keep things in process, but it was not possible. So this is what happened, and this was a very painful mistake, because more than 50 people are arrested already because of this. Yeah, and I know that I'm pretty sure that the organizers are having a very painful experience, psychologically now, because of the mistake that they made, and they know. I am sure that they are now very regretting of not being open to the society and keeping themselves in such an exclusive format. But in another dimension, if you look at it from the strategic point of view, this is a totally strategic victory for the opposition society. Pro-democratic, pro-European society, because we saw there a very inclusive group of people, more than 100,000, and 100,000 is a big number for Georgia, especially considering the atmosphere of fear that the regime has established after January 2024. Yeah, and the whole these 300 years, 315 days of protest, this atmosphere of fear in legal terms and in every term, official and unofficial, it has been there and has been becoming heavy and heavy and heavy. And despite that, with pretty vague agenda that the organizers had, more than 100,000 people came out on the street. And there were youngsters, mid-level, media representatives, and also pretty, like grannies and old people as well. So this was a great thing to see. And I know that regime saw that they were pretty scared. They were pretty afraid that they were working with their scenario, but they were still scared. Hey, man, who knows what these people will do? Maybe they will get more organized and so on, more coordinated, and they will not go back home. And what will happen then? Because this is a great problem for them. So there's a strategic victory, but tactical failure.
Right. Speaking about strategic victory, again, it is indeed important. I agree with you that was a strategic victory. But I think that to bring the results, and which should be the peaceful transfer of power, or how to peacefully push Ivanishvili's regime out of power, that should be the result of everything, or the resistance.
Yes.
Yeah. And how can it be translated into the result? First question to you. And the second question is that what stakeholders of the protest should do to capitalize on this strategic victory. But on the other hand, we also have to face that the Georgian Dream is trying to capitalize on the tactical failure of the organizers of the rally. You mentioned yourself that around 50 people are behind the bars because of this. And the Georgian Dream is moving on to tighten the laws against the parties, to banning the opposition parties, banning not only opposition parties, but the individuals from participating in the elections, etc. So that's one line they are pursuing, and they are doing it pretty quickly. I mean, there is no delay on that.
They're in a rush.
And that puts us in the club of countries like Russia, Belarus, Azerbaijan, etc., etc. So there is not much difference there in terms of legislation. On the other hand, what Georgian Dream is trying to do to tighten the rules to make the protest impossible. Because now you block the street and you are sent to prison right away for 15 days. And then if you do it again, then it might be you'd be spending a year in prison. So we're talking about other restrictions and inhuman laws that are brought, and for the sole reason to crash down Rustaveli protest and to stop it. So what should be the response from the protesters and from the organizers? And I know that you are mediating between the stakeholders of the protest, political parties, civil resistance groups. And a number of times I was listening you on the air talking about a further grand strategy, how the resistance should be approached. So again, what is the way forward? What is the solution out of this situation where it seems that, of course, people got, as you mentioned, strategic victory, but because of the tactical failures, the Georgian Dream is capitalizing on it.
Yes, Georgian Dream is capitalizing on the tactical failure. We should capitalize on strategic victory. And what it means is that now we have an even greater stimulus to start an agreement process on the opposition front. And when I talk about opposition front, I mean two dimensions of it. So one is political party dimension, another is societal dimension. Political party dimension is, there was always a demand for them to unite and so on. I never believed in this kind of unification, but I believe in the agreement. Agreement over some specific aspects. I will talk about it. The same thing should happen on a societal level. Right. The problem is very similar. Mistrust is in both cases the main problem. So the political on the political level, there are some parties that are actually out of the resistance process. Some is going back to the parliament. One has participated in the municipality elections and actually facilitated the legitimacy of so on. And we don't know yet if they will be joining back the resistance process or not. But the door should remain open anyway to all pro-Western and pro-democratic powers. And there are several older parties and some young political groups that are now somehow trying to come into the agreement of what should happen. What should happen in order to get rid of the regime and what should happen after that. So me and my teammates, we are working to facilitate that agreement between the political groups, and that is going okay. There is some prospect there. And the reality helps us, right? I mean, the regime is pushing, so it's pushing for something really bad, but also it has a good aspect on us because we are pushed and we are really straightening our focus now on what has to be done. And many things that are on the way, usually, egos and narrow interest and so on, they're flying away. And on the societal level, there are individual activists, movements like student movements, other type of movements, some organizations, also non-governmental groups, and so on. All these spheres, and all these actors, the very big variety of actors on the civil society part that need to agree as well, coming to the agreement. The main differences between these groups is that some people view the process in the very long term, and some people view the process in the short term. So these are two extreme anticipations, but there is quite a big number of groups that are somewhere in the middle and so on. But the thing is that we need to unite them around one tactical strategy and help them to focus and anticipate a reality. What is the real objective reality? Not what they perceive through their prisms and experiences and anticipation, but what is the objective reality, fact-based reality. And this is where our expertise of those people who have served and know how the security sector works, how the regime works, how the regime consolidates, and what are the tendencies that are apparent, that give us a sense of how much time we have. From my perspective, and not only mine, but my closest teammates' perspective, with our time is by the end of the year. If we do not make a breakthrough by the end of the year, we will appear in a very, very difficult condition where actually the trigger and the energy source of the breakthrough will not exist anymore. And it may throw us in a very difficult situation where for a long time there can be no resistance because the environment that they are creating is worse than in Russia or any other autocratic states that we know. I mean, at least in the post-Soviet arena. So this is a very dangerous situation, and we need to. This next 2 months is something that we need to capitalize on in terms of creating this unified front of resistance. Peaceful, non-violent resistance. And this resistance can be effective only if the wider society, which is by our estimation more than 1.5 million people, if wider society understands how we do the resistance, how we fight, what is the strategy, and they understand what is their role, each of on individual level, how they can contribute to the resistance. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's information war or it's a physical resistance
or economic
or whatever. Yeah, I mean this needs to be very clear and logical, especially. Because of what happened on the 4th of October, now we know what we should not do.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's a very important thing. I mean, this is what we should capitalize on, learning the lesson, and taking the maximum of the benefit from what happened on 4th October and using it in the benefit of the organizing and coordinating and strategizing about the resistance further in the process. There is a reality that if you are active and resistance goes, then this time period extends because the regime is now trying to establish very quickly. These kind of regimes that they are trying to establish is a Russian type regime. You cannot establish it very quickly. It is very difficult. It's almost, let's say so, it makes you weak. I mean, it needs time. Russian type of regime was there for dozens of years, yeah, and for even the centuries. I mean, it changed the form a little bit during Soviet time, but before and after, If we consider only the small window of kind of democracy in Russia, I mean, since Putin came, at least. It has been a total slavery. I call it slavery. It's not a dictatorship or something. It's a slavery, really. It makes people, society, a slave of the regime, and everything else plays in that favor. So this type of regime cannot be established very quickly in 2 months. Or during the year. It needs to ingest itself in every aspect of citizens' life, methodically and so on. So that's their weakness, that they're in a rush. Now when they saw this huge amount of people after many efforts that they had to scare the people, they know now that the power is out there. And they are very scared that after this 4th of October, we will get more organized, more coordinated, and we will really do what is necessary, because there is some scenario that they are very afraid of. And this scenario is too many people on too many locations, able to defend themselves against the oppressing police force and those criminals that usually we call it titushka, based on Ukrainian experience, that they infiltrate and provocate and so on. And so if there are too many people on too many points, important spots where they cannot ignore, that the regime cannot ignore, and they also can defend themselves from the police for a sufficient time period, then this regime is done. And it's done, there's a particular measurement to this as well.
Interesting. So you mentioned that we need to achieve breakthrough, and pretty quickly, because the time is against us. But on the other hand, what you said, that true dictatorial regimes need time to permeate in the society.
Exactly.
It's not that, well, the Ivanishvili, in our case, he captured the state, captured the institutions. Now we are in the process of him capturing the islands of freedom, or society, or mentality of a free man or free woman, free person. But again, my question, just to continue on that, I absolutely agree with you when you mentioned that the good thing about the 4th of October is that it kind of closed the chapter and opened a new chapter. No matter you like this chapter or not, or maybe better or worse, we're not talking about this.
Right.
And we also saw what works and what doesn't work. Again, the 4th of October, the local elections and the peaceful revolution that didn't work out that way as organizers planned, shows us two things. Elections has been abolished in this country, and if you are participating in this sham elections or circus, it wouldn't bring you any results. On the other way around, it will make you a laughingstock, as is the case with the parties that participated. On the other hand, peaceful revolution staged like this or announced like this doesn't work, and we have to face it.
Right.
And going to the direction that you basically outlined, that, okay, what we need is that we need the total resistance, hundreds of thousands of people resisting this government as they can. Yes, I agree with you, but what should be the practical manifestation of it? How practically would or should it be organized? As I assume, the strategy is that to make resistance so big and so massive in a way that the Georgian Dream would and should stop effectively executing their power. But what I don't see is that how is going to happen. What is something that would stop, for example, defense ministry functioning, or bus service functioning, or mayor office functioning? What you have to do, as I understand, you have to create the situation where you dysfunction all the institutions and At some point, Ivanishvili's regime says that we no longer able to run the country.
Yes. First of all, you need to, as I mentioned, we need to reach the agreement between the societal part and the political part of our society and create one unified front. This is work in progress, and we're working on it. And I'm carefully optimistic about that. Another thing is that when this happens, this should be demonstrated, this unity and agreement between all these stakeholders should be demonstrated to the wider society, so wider society knows that there is some center of power already being established. And the center of power means that there is a unified agreement about the responsibility over the process of resistance and also over the process of what will happen after the regime falls. And this should be very clear to the society. So everything depends on the quality of agreement between all these political and societal stakeholders. And then the effectiveness of communication of how all these agreements were presented to the society, wider society, in a trustworthy and reliable manner. So the trustworthiness and the reliability of the wider society over the process that is suggested from the more active part of the society and the political part of it, this is a crucial thing. Okay, because what we know for fact is that people want the breakthrough. Nobody wants to be a slave. Nobody wants to live in totally powerless condition and unprotected, because this is what this government and this regime is suggesting and pushing for. Yeah? That you as a citizen will be totally powerless and unprotected. Nothing will protect you. And wider society knows this. So we need to create a reliable and trustworthy conditions for them to act. Now, this 4th October serves us in benefit to this, because now we all know that, hey, it cannot be something irrational, it cannot be something ineffective, something blurry. This has to be really something serious that we will propose. So let's imagine that we have created this kind of center of gravity and the logical, tactical strategy of how we're going to deal with the regime and what will happen after that. And society trusts this. Let's imagine that this point has been reached. What happens then? Then this tactical strategy is understood by the society. And the society physically follows the strategy when the time comes, and when the center of representatives of the center of gravity that I mentioned will call that, for example, now 26th of October is coming. For example, 26th of October, we announced this tactical strategy, and then we have next phases until 28th of November. This is where our regime killed our Euro-Atlantic aspirations and so on. There's 1 year exactly that will be the particular date. So during this month, from the 26th of October to 28th of November, there will be a communication. So there should be a line of activities that will warm up the resistance and warm up the process that will lead us to culmination. And the culmination, after all the activities, must look something like big amounts of people, 5,000, 10,000 groups in different locations, able to defend themselves, not attacking anything, no violence, nothing. This just protecting those particular spots. And those spots are important spots for the regime. And the regime has to mobilize all they have, whatever they have in the power, because they stand not on the Ministry of Finance or Ministry of Economics or whatever. They stand on a police force. And this police force has just several thousand people. Okay, they need to be stretched out to all of those locations. And they need to face a much higher amount of people in the resistance that this police force is. So we should create conditions where this police force is not able, with everything they got, they're not able to move us from that location. And they cannot execute the order that is coming through the regime. When the orders coming through the regimes cannot be executed, this is the point of breakthrough.
Yeah.
And then the society, even wider society, during the process will see that we are winning. And the regime cannot function. Then, of course, we should be ready to create circumstances to pull police force on our side, because there are huge amount of professionals in the police force. Many of them have been already kicked out from the system, but still they have a big deficiency of the human capital, and they are willing for the change. They don't want to be slaves and serving this Russian betrayal. Yeah, so this is something that we should capitalize on. But they need some assurances from another alternative power center, reliable, trustworthy power center, legitimate, with that has a higher legitimacy of the people. So they decide to change sides and come on our side, and this make it visible to other counterparts. Yeah, and this is already a classical scenario. Let's say so. There's nothing extraordinary going on here. This regime is acting in a very classical way. They're not really creative in anything. This goes straight forward. It's very clear.
The Russian playbook,
absolutely,
page by page.
Exactly, very clear what they're doing. We have much more space to maneuver and be creative on our part in the resistance. Yeah, so there are many strengths that we have, and this regime is totally isolated now. Yeah, the moral, let's say so, power is on our side. This is very important. Their people are, interested by money or by very narrow interests, and those others who are like kind of captured in this scenario that the regime introduced, and they just appear to be working in these organizations and in these structures, that the regime is using against the society. So morally they are very weak, and this moral compass of ours is of strategic importance, and we should capitalize on that. Also, the amount of people is much higher on our side. They have money, but this money doesn't help. You cannot just...
it doesn't buy everything.
Yes, it doesn't buy everything. People are not there. There are just 5,000 to 6,000 policemen who are there. Yeah, I mean, it's no force against the tens of thousands and 50 and 60 and 70,000 of people spread across the city or even across the country and so on. So this tactical strategy, not in very details and so on, but overall tactical strategy and approach should be clear for the society. When the time comes, how should we act in order to make this regime stuck and make them dysfunctional? And when this breakthrough happens, we should be ready to take the power from them, and then manage the country in a way, because they will try to sabotage, obstruct, and so on. We should be ready to manage the country. There should be, everything should be prepared. A legitimate decision-making framework should be prepared, like National Council, whatever it will be. There are some different ideas. Also technical government who will manage the country, how the technical government comes, how these decisions, how they are elected, and what are the criteria for the technical government or interim administration, and what is the authority of the interim administration. All these things have to become clear. And there is a quite good work has been done already. There is a framework, and this framework should be demonstrated to the society. So society doesn't have uncertainties and concerns that, what will happen after the regime falls? Because if there is this concern, then it eats up the energy from the society, and they don't have enough energy to contribute to the resistance. When they have clear understanding that there are high guarantees and attitudes and understand and concept agreement about what will happen after the regime falls and how this country will be managed in a secure and stable way, then they can focus on resistance. And if there is a clear strategy of how we deal with the regime, then we have much higher chances of success and much lower risks for unsuccessful results, let's say so.
All right, interesting. Let's move a little bit further. Let's zoom out a little bit and see what are the also international factors, because it's you basically concentrated on the local and national factors, and I believe, and you said that isolation. Well, that's the key word, I think. The moral isolation, practical isolation at national level, and international isolation. These should be the three factors that, when synchronized, should produce results for these, not destabilizing, but to dysfunctioning of the Georgian Dream government and then falling the regime. But again, my question to you is that, well, what we see at an international level, we see this clear isolation of Georgia. Even now, yesterday, GD Prime Minister basically refused to meet OSCE chair. And by the way, OSCE is the only organization, I think, that still cooperates with the GD government. And, well, there was a very important summit in China, and then the Georgian government was not invited. We had another very important summit in Egypt a few days ago when the Gaza peace deal was achieved. The Armenian, Azerbaijani presidents, all other regional, whatever, international powers were present there, and neither Kobakhidze nor Ivanishvili was there, obviously. And the list is long, and we can continue endlessly about how practically international community and democratic world isolated Georgian Dream. And also, what is happening in the region is we see that the American brokered peace deal between Azerbaijan and Armenia, Azeri president meeting Putin a few days back, and he seemed very weak and timid there when he apologized for this downing this Azerbaijani plane and promised to, just pay money to the victims and etc., etc. So, in that situation, how do you see the synchronization of internal and external factors to support this isolation? First thing, and second, will the isolation help on its own?
Yes.
But must be there something else as well apart from isolation? Because, maybe isolated Ivanishvili's regime can still command, the country and still get enough resources from Russia, China, Iran, etc. And isolation from the democratic world, no matter how powerful or painful that might be, cannot be enough a factor to bring the desired results.
Correct. It cannot be, absolutely. First of all, we need effective resistance here locally, and we need to get organized and get coordinated, get agreed, and so on, whatever I was talking about earlier. This has to happen, absolutely. And our international democratic world has to see that Georgian people will never tolerate this kind of regime and this, let's say so, never will tolerate Russian type of slavery in this country. So this commitment to the European integration process and freedom and those values, this has to be very apparently seen and anticipated. And I think this is happening, and the international community, our partners see this non-stop process. They also see what kind of regime. There is no question. I think nobody questions what kind of regime is that and what they're doing and what we are facing. This is clear for everybody. Now they need to see that Georgian people are getting organized to resist this. This is one thing. If this is happening, then the isolation can take another dimension. It's not only an isolation, because these guys also want to be isolated. They're proactively working to burn down all bridges and to become isolated. This is what they want. This is what Russian agenda wants, and they want to connect, as you mentioned, to some other authoritarian centers of power and resources, and keep ourselves isolated. So this is the isolation can be very damaging in this regard as well. Yeah, and this is something we need to keep in mind. So, but if the resistance is here, then the isolation can take another shape. That in terms of supporting the resistance. Supporting the resistance and bringing this focus on local and international focus to the process of resistance.
Absolutely. Sorry, interrupting you. I think that this should be the message to our international friends, that the isolation itself is not enough if there is no direct support of Georgian democratic forces and resistance. Again, if there is a clear support, including financial and technical support for resistance, plus isolation and sanctions that are in the pipeline, that could be a factor.
Because I mean, the information and this emotion and let's say inner dedication towards the resistance that we need to cultivate here and keep it on a high level. This also can be very strongly empowered, and is always very strongly empowered when from our democratic partners and our international community. This messaging comes very clear that they support Georgian people's effort and resistance and so on and so on. Of course, we need to keep the resistance in the forms and in the framework that enables the international community to support it in a moral context. Yeah, these forms should be non-violent, and it's not only to keep the international community focused on us in a positive way, but also that non-violence is important, not to drag our country into a condition which will benefit Russian interests later on. Yeah, so there is only one non-violent scenario for us is one, but non-compromised as well. I mean, non-violent, peaceful, but very strong, dynamic, and non-compromised resistance is the key here. So the international community will be able morally to support this process, and they should support in every way, because this is very important. This empowers our people very much. And this can be a crucial when we, for example, when we will manage to have some kind of legitimate center of power in the resistance, the international community should be able and ready to recognize it and support it and acknowledge this, so we feel empowered and we don't feel abandoned. So this is very important. And so not only isolation doesn't work. Regime stands on three main factors. First is the financial factor, that they utilize the resources that they own in order to manipulate people who are in poverty in this country, socially unprotected and so on, vulnerable people. And sanctions work on that very significantly and help that very significantly. And the sanctions should continue and become as maximum as it's possible. I understand that there are some aspects that maybe that our partners are not working with, because not to damage the country itself and the country's economy, but these individual sanctions and so on is very important. And another leg that the regime is standing on is propaganda, and international support and this acknowledgement and statements and so on helps us to fight the propaganda here And the third, the most powerful and the most important is this enforcement, the force, the physical force that the regime uses. And this is, nobody can help us with that. We need to deal with that. So in these three dimensions, on these two dimensions, first two dimensions, the international support, continuous support, and very sharp support is very important to help us to fight with the third power dimension, which regime stands on.
Thank you. Is there anything else that you want to add before we call it a day? Because the time is against us and we have to finish it.
No, I'm looking forward to the process. I'm looking forward to the future. Georgian people, we Georgian people are not fighting only for our survival, but the victory of democracy in Georgia is a victory of democracy in this region, and victory of democracy in this region is a European victory and the victory of the whole democratic world. And we still see that in the 21st century, on this period where all the technological development and the new era is here, AI era and so on, we still see that there are powers who are dragging us into the slavery. And they're using this technology actually to drag us into the slavery. So this war is a global war and we need to win this war. And what will happen here in Georgia is it will have much more important implications on the results of this war than someone may anticipate. So I'm looking forward. I'm proud, together with you, to be part of this process, and wish that we have a breakthrough soon, and we free all our prisoners and those heroes who are sitting there in prisons. And give hope to the democratic world that we will never surrender to this agenda that these autocratic regimes have.
Yeah, thank you, David.
Thank you very much for
inviting.
inviting.
We will win in the end. And thanks for watching us and listening to us. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and to our Spotify channel, and I'll see you next week.